says, who do you think is the most influential person in Steve's life?
I think, I think, well, he wasn't mentioned in the story that much, but I think it was his film teacher, because, like, for example, Steve was having like a flashback of his film class, and he uses the stuff that he remembered from the class in the court, and without the film teacher teaching him that stuff, the pages in the movie would be like a movie script. So, like, I think the most influential person is the film teacher.
Well, what I heard from my son was a couple words I said O'Brien, because she helps him do the full court effort. O'Brien, because he says you have to believe in yourself if you're going to believe the jury that you're listening, and like that's probably one of the most important quotes in the book.
Yeah.
I think Patrick Kelly, even though it's kind of like a weird thing to say, but I think Patrick Kelly is the most influential person because, what did I say? So, without a bad thing, we wouldn't have to do these things. Like, something caused him to have to do this. Like, he has to fight in court because of Patrick Kelly. He has to show his innocence because of Patrick Kelly. You know, and Patrick Kelly is calling him a monster. That's showing his real personality. Even though he is not a monster, he gets to show his personality through what he believes in. So I think Patrick Kelly is the most influential person.
I'm gonna have to disagree with things because I think Patrick Kelly isn't the most influential person because he said because of Patrick Kelly, Steve is there now, but Patrick Kelly wasn't at the crime when it happened, and all she's doing is like putting him down and stuff like that.
Patrick Kelly didn't land Steve in the situation. I'm just saying, like, Patrick Kelly didn't put Steve in jail. But the reason I say Patrick Kelly is the most influential is because, let's say I did something good, I probably wouldn't do something good unless I had motivation. I think Patrick Kelly is that Steve had an empty spot in his life, which was motivation. I think Patrick Kelly filled that spot for him, for that position, because Patrick Kelly really motivated him to do better things. Because, you know, I don't think Patrick Kelly meant anything personal, but it was just a case. But Steve probably took it to heart, so.
Like calling names, so like it influences him to be a better person.
Yeah, he was called a monster, so I think being called a monster that motivated him to prove to the jury, prove to his peers that he wasn't a monster, so.
I feel like when she called him a monster, it just made him more like unconfident because like O'Brien had to tell him.
Just like Maddie said, the issues could be a good influence to make him be a better person, but bad because making him unconfident, and it could go both ways, but in my mind I see her as not an influence to see.
I'm still sticking with O'Brien because O'Brien's been sticking with Steve the whole way through.
Yeah, he's been singing this with Steve the whole way through, but what does that influence Steve at all? All he's doing is just helping him get through it. Maybe his influence is, maybe the only thing he's influenced is that,
Well, O'Brien helped
yeah,
Steve through the whole entire thing.
yeah, influencing him to never give up and help. But when I said film teacher, like, that's going through like a whole book with all the cameras and stuff.
O'Brien's going up to the whole book too. O'Brien.
Oh,
Brian's only there. Only there.
Hey, you're in the hot seat.
He's in the circle.
Oh! So,
himself that he's going to win the case. And that's throughout the entire book, and it doesn't really stop. She's with him through the entire book, basically, and she helps him get over his fear of dying.
Well, I guess so, but it could go both ways, I think.
I think that his mom is the most influential person because she tries to push him through and so he can get out, and she says no matter what anybody says, I know you're innocent and I love you very much, and I think that she really helped him through that.
I have to agree with Brantley because basically his mom was the one who had to raise him right and show him what not to do. Although she isn't really in the book a lot, she's always there in the cases. I saw that she was in the background that they would cut to her. So it shows that she believes in him and she's hoping that he did the right thing.
I was gonna agree with Brantley that his mom's the most influential person, because when he was in jail, she's saying no matter what happens, you're still gonna be fine. So she's basically making him like stay confident and make sure he doesn't go down on it.
I agree with that.
O'Brien went through the whole thing, never giving up. So I still think it's O'Brien.
I think it's the teacher.
I think it could be his mom and O'Brien. Well, it could be his mom or O'Brien because they both, like Princess Charlotte, when she tries, he says a monster, and we call him monster and stuff usually, and do that, try to make him uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then
Bunch of,
they'll look nervous or something to make it look like they did it
so
in
there's
the trial. But the O'Brien and his mom didn't let Princess Shelley get to him. They tried not to let him think about it too much.
I guess a lot of people were influenced in his life.
I think it's O'Brien because O'Brien sticks with him through everything. O'Brien hasn't given up on him, and even if they find a flaw, O'Brien's still gonna stick with him the whole way through because he knows that Steve's innocent the whole way through. He knows he hasn't done anything wrong. So, bam, that's my pick.
I agree with Brayden because O'Brien's been with him throughout the whole book and believes in him.
I guess everybody is a big influence. Everybody has opinions, but I think it's the film teacher still trying to get attention throughout the whole book that helped them. Okay, let's go on to question 4.
Don't forget, I see many of you not having those observation sheets in your hand.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay, you got a minute and a half for wingman time. Ready? You're on the
What do you think
Okay, everybody has their observation for
You have to.
If you're in the outer circle, I just need you to take like a half scoot back, because your outer circle is really confusing with your inner circle.
Yeah.
You've been here for 2 rounds. Scoot back, scoot back, scoot back. There we go. Okay, make sure you have your observation papers in hand. Question 4 says, what do you think Steve did after he got out of jail, according to his character?
Mine was more of an opinion answer, so I said, I think that Steve learned his lesson. Why? Well, Steve's an honest kid. He said he didn't kill the man, and he didn't. And he said exactly what he remembered. He also didn't stop saying and proving that he was innocent. Well, he says I'm scared, and this says that he doesn't really like prison at all. So, and I guess the prison means like the food, the bed, just everything around. He probably, I think that what he might do is he might just go home, lie in his comfortable bed and eat something good, because prison food isn't good, and the beds aren't that comfy. So, I think he might just go home and relax and eat something good. Yeah, that's what I said. I said he would have went home and spent as much time as he could with his family, because he probably missed them a lot, according to his character.
Well, I think, he just went back to his normal way of living and going to school and just having friends and being with family and just.
On page 279, Steve says, my mother doesn't understand what I am doing with the films I am making. So, to me, he is like basically probably gonna try to make films and try to like develop a movie.
And that's what it says on page 280. It's basically telling him he's back with his friend Jerry and them in the film class, just working on their project and.
I said I think he's gonna make the movie and try to regain trust between his family and friends.
He could have also went home and started over his life.
I think that it's kind of like going along with what Kyle Haley said. I think that he tried to make his notebook into a movie, and I think that he would have went on to create more movies from other people's experiences that he knows or people that he met.
Well, I think he made movies, but if I got out of jail first, I'd probably just go see my family and just do everything I wasn't allowed to do. I would like sidetrack all of them. I think he would sidetrack the movie stuff, visit his family, and then after he's done visiting his family, he could just do the movies and be a normal teenager again.
Oh yes, I agree with Jonah, but I was like talking way after. I didn't mention his mom or anything, my fault. Yes, he's gonna go visit his mom and stuff, and then we'll work on his notebook.
Alright, I think that as soon as Steve got out of jail, he started his life over, and he didn't go to see his family first. I think that he would have let them take time to cool down and make sure that he wasn't, to see that he wasn't such of a bad person. And as soon as they realized this, then he would have started going back to them to see them more, to where he could fully develop their trust.
His family, what he said, his family knew he didn't do it. That's what they're being focused on the whole time, saying he didn't do it, he committed suicide over here. So when you go into prison, you're yourself, but when you come out of prison, you're not the same person. You're tougher, you're not as joyful. Do you think that, his character has changed over the time while he's in jail? So, I mean, we don't really get to his personality because the entire book takes place in him in prison and court, so we don't really know what he is before the prison. So, what do you guys think? According to his prison character?
Yes.
Steve, going off what Carter said, Steve had an awful smug, nonchalant personality about the whole situation. Of course, some of the things in the trial and everything kind of did razzle him. He also they really get to wake up, and it's a really good wake up call for somebody. It's a bit excessive of a wake up call, but if you've been down that road, then that may need to be precautionary to get back on the track. So I think Steve ultimately will go back with his mom and kind of hunker down for a while and just stay chill with everything. So I think it will come up.
Well, Steve's still like a little child. He's still a minor, so I'm kind of curious if when he goes back to school, do you think that the kids in his grade or in school in general will eventually trust him again, or just kind of like ever be the same?
Well, I mean, because he was found innocent, I mean, he is a different personality. He's out of jail, but I mean, his friends, now that he's innocent, since he's innocent, I guess they think that, well, he was free, and I feel bad for him, so I think they trust him.
At the beginning, O'Brien speaks to Steve and saying, "Do not believe that you are a monster." Sound familiar? Right, okay. At the very end of our text, we see that Steve spreads his arms to hug O'Brien, but she stiffens and turns to pick up her papers from the table before them. Her lips tense, she's pensive, she gathers her papers and moves away as Steve, arms still outstretched, turns towards the camera. His image is in black and white, and the grain is nearly broken. It looks like one of the pictures they use for a psychological testing, or some strange beast, like a monster. So as he's released out back into the real world, how do you feel his image has changed?
Maybe they would still see him as a monster a little bit.
Up until now, he's been writing a monster either on his sketch pad or in his diary. This is the first time we see monster in his script. Can somebody speak to that?
I think that because they only use the word monster in like the diaries and everything, that in the script it changes because it actually, I'm not sure if it's more of a narrator saying it or what, but I mean it kind of gives you the picture, but it doesn't exactly tell you what they're saying. That you figure it out.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that like throughout the entire thing that O'Brien, although she said that he has to think that he's not a monster, I think that even in the back of her mind, because of how she reacted when he went to go hug him, that she didn't really start to believe that. It was just kind of like an act, and she just wanted to get the trial over with and see what would happen.
And I think he's also trying to move away from that whole scenario and the whole just crime, because it says that he wants to look at himself 1,000 times to look for one true image. So this tells us he's trying to find himself and just to get away and just move away from the whole crime with a bunch of murder and stuff.
Kind of what Connor said, when he gets out of jail, to make better decisions and try not to end up back in jail. I remember when I cut my finger, I was really paranoid about everything, I didn't really want to go outside because I was afraid I might get hurt again. And I think that because he went into jail, that, when he's getting out, he's gonna be really paranoid about everything, like, I forgot to pay 1 cent or something, so I think he's gonna be really tense and really, he's gonna try to, like, clear off the monster side and try to put everything off.
I really like what Carter just said because, I know a lot of people can relate to this. Like, if a harsh event happens in your life, you kind of start to stray from reality, and also you pick up a habit, a pattern in your life that you do. Like, my cousin died on the right side of a car, and and my mom will never sit on like the right side of the backseat of the car anymore. You pick up habits, like when something bad happens in your life, you pick up habits, you pick up patterns that starts to occur in your life, in everyday life really. And I think since Steve went to jail, that he probably won't, since he experienced this harsh event, he will not go back to jail, he will not repeat these patterns of offenses, like he probably will never like go to a gas station, you know, all these things that, I think will repeat a lot in his life after that. I mean, it changed him, and I know it did, and I want to leave with a question. What do you think, Steve would do if he was in prison for life? And what do you think his family would do? Or death?
He'd probably be very angry and frustrated that even though he didn't do anything, he's still facing life in prison, and you can't change that. So
I think he might actually be really mad at Petroselli, and he might be a little upset with Miss O'Brien for not, having good enough evidence or not supporting him enough. But I mean, they did a good job of supporting him. But I think that his actions would probably be more aggressive.
I think he would I think they would want to take it to some other court system or something because they don't really have any evidence against Steve. So they would have a better investigation on it. Might find some better deals.
So like Ms. Brown was saying, maybe he really did do it, because we just didn't have the information on him doing it. So like when I said monster, or a beast, or a monster, he's just super excited that he didn't go to jail and he just got lucky. Yeah, he did do it, he just got lucky. Yeah, he might even like, when he's out of jail, he might like get really excited and, get in the car and start speeding. Like, when you're excited, you don't really realize what you're doing sometimes. And I think that he's either going to be really paranoid or really excited, and really excited can mean really, careless. That's what I did last night. I was watching that film, I think I did in person. Really excited. What's the time?
So, I think, like I was saying, I referred to page 98 with, Steve, again, like, kind of accepting his fate, but also being frustrated. He was very smug and nonchalant about the whole case again. So I think by showing, like, by putting his arms out, I think it was more of a taunt than it was like a, generous offer. Well, obviously it was, but, I think by doing that, it symbolizes, like, I just got off of, it could lead into maybe being, I'm innocent, I'm guilty, but I'm really innocent, you fools, or something along the lines of that, because, if I was guilty of something, and then I was proven innocent in the court of law, I would definitely do something in an act of rebellion, I got away with it, so.
Okay, we're gonna do the last question.
Don't touch the chair ever again.
What did you put in the question about?
should have done it.
Here then for you.
How can different perspectives influence the notion of truth? So, that. We talked about it in class.
Okay, I'm confused. Who's in the circle?
The difficulty, like the JDC, she believed in it, like she got 19 minutes, and then some others might not believe in it. Okay, so more perspectives could evolve into truth.
perspectives influence the notion of truth, and truth is in quotation marks.
Alright.
Think about various texts you've been exposed to at the unit, interviews, videos, articles, podcasts, novel, blogging, daily conversations, etc.
Alright, so I worked with on this one. How can different perspectives influence the notion of truth? A really good example of this is on page 13 when Steve asks the question of if he will win or not. This is the quote. Are we going to win, Steve? Or do you think we're going to win? Says Steve. And then it depends on what you mean by win. O'Brien responds. This one really hit home with me because it depends on the perspective you can see and the relevance and already predict the outcome of the case. In O'Brien's eyes, it does not matter if he wins or loses. Its only concern on his mind is probably the money. But on the other hand, Steve's life depends on O'Brien's confidence. Steve's life depends on O'Brien's confidence. And see the substantiality here and the contradiction between Steve's and O'Brien's comment through perspective. So I think that O'Brien saying, and showed his confidence when O'Brien said, well, it means, but it depends on what you mean by win. He didn't really care what happened, really. But through the case, he developed more of a relationship with Steve. But other than that, at first, it was just another case. So I think it depends on what perspective you're in to really grasp the meaning of the character.
I kind of agree with him. I think that it depends on what whose perspective you're in. Like if you're Petrocelli, you think that Steve is guilty. If you're the judge, you're just trying to get information out of Steve. If you're O'Brien, then you're trying to help Steve. If you're Steve, you think I'm in a big mess. So, but when it comes to perspective on what happened, it depends. It really depends on their character. Like, let's say Mr. Nesbitt survived, and he would say, he was a really honest person, and then Bobo, who's not, tells two different stories. It would really depend on honesty and.
I have to agree on Carter because people always have different stories to tell and always will see you differently. For example, on page 24, you have to believe in yourself if we're going to convince the jury that you're innocent. Shows that O'Brien wants to help Steve and she believes in him. Well, for page 5, Steve writes, I'll call it what the lady who is the prosecutor called me monster. Shows that Petrocelli is against him and she wants to win the case.
I agree with Grant, because I read a post on the wiki, and we read a lot about perspective, and we read a lot about Steve's perspective in particular, but Steve, I believe by Steve's naive attempt to prove himself innocent in the court, perspective shines through in the way of the truth. The post states, perspective shows not in the character, but the eyes in which he sees through. That as well really shows to me perspective. Steve shows his character not through just the way he acts in court, but he shows, or just not by the description of him. It shows a lot by the way he acts in court, his flashback, all that. And then if I were to look at you, Braden, and have a bad perspective on you, he might not think so. He might not think so. It's all different. Perspective is really key, especially in writing a book or a movie script. It all the perspectives really contradict and go head on head with each other. So I think that with the opportunity to get everybody's perspective, like Petrocelli, O'Brien, Zinzi, all these people, we got to get a perspective on Steve to really hone Steve's character. So I think that was a good addition to the book.
I agree with Haynes, Carter, and Grant because, Haynes just said, there are just different perspectives of Petrocelli, and then O'Brien. one wants Steve to like Miss O'Brien. She wants Steve to win, and then Petrocelli wants Steve to lose. So.
I also kind of think that, I mean, perspective is also how much you know who you're judging, so like, you have to say that like, let's say you're a judge and they bring in some kid who is being charged for murder, you think this kid's gonna be guilty, but then, you know, and then I guess their parents, and they really know him enough to know that his character, I mean, they might say, well, yeah, he might kill somebody, but then, I mean, if it's, you know, if it's not in that case, but they know him enough to say that he wouldn't do that if his life depended on it, so I think that perspective is also how much you get to know the character.
Yeah, I agree with that, but, no, I do agree with that number, but, in social studies, we're learning about perspective, and, today, all of us had a lot of, biased opinions, but I believe really that, truly, if you had a court case, which is ironic example, but if you had a court case and you only had one side to the story, you wouldn't really be able to grasp the story, you wouldn't be able to go off what this one person said. If you have various different sources on the story, you'll get to really learn about the story more and be able to grasp the real point of the story. And with this, I think if Steve just explained to us through his movie script how he was, you know, oh, I'm a great person, yada yada, that wouldn't really, I mean, I would be going off his word, but, and then you add Zinzi, you add Petrocelli, you add O'Brien, you add the judge in this mix, then you can really, based off perspective, you can really know the truth on Steve's character.
I agree with Chance. Say if I was like have a murder charge on me, and it was like Steve at a gas station, and that victim had a friend with him, and that friend said to the judge that I attempted the murder without what is it that I attempted a murder and what? Yes. So, and then I get the general store owner, the witnesses, and they say a whole different thing. They would believe either